Hey there, guys, and Happy New Year. 2025 is going to be the ultimate year for me. I feel it, it's in my bones, and I just wanted to say hello to all my
A
Daisy
Daisy
girls,
girl,
my
a
Daisy girl.
Daisy girl.
And anyway, even if you're not a Daisy girl, if you're marrying a Daisy boy, I am super excited just to get into the timeline of things. So today we're going to be talking about timeline, and we're going to talk about how to avoid all the IST that can possibly come from whether your family or his family or her family or your family, whatever it may be. Today, we're going to kick all that out and we're going to bring in this new year, bringing everybody in on time when it comes to your wedding day. So come on, let's talk a little bit about the timeline. So here we go. We're moving into the new year, and I definitely want to talk about maybe some time goals this year. Timelines are super important to every single vendor, but most importantly to these families, as it's important to know your family moving into your wedding day. Families know who's late and who's not. So being able to give the correct timings to the correct family members is super important. So what I'm going to tell you in advance is when you start thinking about timelines, remember that there's transition timing. This is one of the biggest things that is ultimately forgotten on the wedding days because people don't think, how long is it going to take me to transition from my room to the terrace or the terrace back to my room? Or am I not going back to my room, but I'm going to a holding area and then I have to get in there before my significant other moves from his location to the barat? Whatever it is, we want to make sure that we have these transition times covered in here, as well as times where you know your auntie or uncle are always 45 minutes late. It's almost like you need to give them another set time to make sure that everything stays on schedule. And if you take these little things into notice, when you start distributing a timeline for family members and so forth, you can really avoid a lot of the IST that gets involved and misconstrued as one family's fault or the other. So let's talk a little bit about how we can attack the day from the very beginning to ensure that we buffered enough on the front end to make up for the back end. Last week, I was talking to a couple in which I hope that I do book them because I really enjoyed meeting with them, but mom jumped on the call. And it was interesting to hear the two's take. And often enough, I'll get on these calls and my bride and groom will get on 10 minutes before mom or dad or the planner even. And they really want to talk about things that maybe they're a little concerned about and they want to address on the call. And they leave it open to me to be able to jump on those questions and ask them because they're more comfortable if I did that. So one of the things that this mom was saying was she really didn't want them to see each other. And from this perspective, the girl is Caucasian American and the boy is Indian. He's actually Telugu. So he's from the same area in which my husband is from. And so really understanding who's more conservative versus who's not is really an advantage that I have because I was kind of expecting for his mom to say, look, I don't want them seeing each other beforehand, especially when she told me what time they were intending to start the ceremony. And this was something that you could tell the bride and groom really wanted to see each other beforehand. They really wanted that first look because from the American wedding side of things, she doesn't want to see each other before she walks down the aisle. So this gave them each what they kind of wanted. She wanted those clean pictures from the Indian ceremony before all the flowers, before all the garlands, before all the kumkum. But at the same time, for the Western side of things, she really wanted that moment where he saw her coming down the aisle in that dress before, they actually saw each other for the first time. So it was kind of a give and take, which I thought was an awesome thing to do when you're blending marriages together. But mom was very adamant that they were just not going to see each other before the ceremony because of the stipulations and the stereotypes and why they wouldn't do that because that's what everybody does when mom really hasn't been involved in a lot of wedding planning in the recent times here in the United States with couples who are not getting married in India and what those particular timings look like. So when we enter the picture, I always tell everybody makeup artists play a big part in keeping your wedding timeline on schedule. Most often, if timelines are late, and makeup artists are going to kill me on this one, but I do got a heads up because usually we are booked before them. But if you do not have a good makeup artist that sticks with her schedule and stays on task and, you do that trial. So it's very important when she does your trial to try to treat that just as your trial. You can tend to be very talky during a trial, and she's learning what your needs and wants are, but just clock that time from the time that she starts till the time she ends. And then you could probably minus it by 20 minutes. And you'll know a good, safe spot where you can time your getting ready for hair and makeup. Remember that hair and makeup, no matter what they tell you, you need to really buffer 3 to 4 hours. Most good makeup artists will tell you 3 hours, but that 4 hours can make up for some of that chattiness. It can really make up for some of the going to the bathroom or chatting or just getting up and having to stretch your legs because you've been sitting so long. Just keep those things in mind. Makeup artistry is super important. And while a lot of people tend to think it's the photographers that make that magic, I promise you, makeup makes the magic. So if you get a really great makeup artist, photographers have even less work to do on your images. Turnaround time is even faster because we're not retouching a lot of the things that you see when people just don't know the art of makeup. So take that into consideration. But we're going to talk a little bit about the day of timeline. So I'm not going to cover any Sangeet stuff or Garba or Haldi or anything like that. This is specifically going to be avoiding all the IST that can come around planning your wedding day timeline. So from the time you get up until the time you're ready to walk out the door, you should automatically assume you got 4 hours to build in there. That's you getting up, you getting showered or showering the night before might save you a little bit of time, but you got to get up, you got to get adjusted. If you're planning to fast that day, days can get very stressful. So make sure that you get up, and whether you're going to be allowed to have water or whatever, just kind of get acclimated to your morning. That way you can start hair and makeup and then be prepared, because at that particular time, that is the start of your day. And if your reception goes till midnight, just think now you're going on like 20 hours of no sleep by the time you hit your reception. And gosh, if you're having an after party, just forget about sleep altogether for that day. So let's jump into that first part. As I said, 3 to 4 hours. You need to be the judge of how long you think your makeup artist is going to take. That trial session is really going to sit in stone what those expectations really should and would look like. And that will give you a good estimate of what you need to time your day like. And timelines for vendors, you want to make sure that we get these timelines 30 days in advance. When I get a timeline 30 days in advance, I like to be able to look through it and say, hey, did we consider this? Maybe we should consider this. And then we can make some adjustments to it so that you can go ahead and make those adjustments to the timeline, send it back over, have a final look at it, and then make sure your vendors have that timeline between 7 and 14 days in advance. Usually, if I have a client and they have a coordinator that is a pretty good coordinator, I'm okay with getting that 7 days in advance. But if there's no coordinator involved, I definitely want it 30 days in advance. For a coordinator, I'll take it 2 weeks in advance to get a good look at it so that they can reconfigure it up until that last week and make sure that we're all on task. So let's start back at the beginning again. The time that you need to be up in the morning, you might as well advance it by 4 hours from the time you intend to have your first look. For our South Indians, you really need to take into consideration if there are any pujas or plans that your parents have that they might not made you aware of, such as a Gauri puja, or some parents will choose to do pujas in the room for the boy at the same time. I'm not entirely sure what that's called because I feel like for every region of India, they call it something a little different, and some people don't do it at all. Like, for example, some people will do a sarabandi and some people will not do that. Some people will do just a puja in general with the groom, and some people will do no puja at all. So talk definitely to both sides of your parents. Make sure that you guys have a good understanding of what that morning looks like, because the more you have to do before you have your first look, the earlier you have to get up. So making sure that you're able to do that first look is super important. I would say that in the coming recent years, that first look is almost 95% of our couples are doing a first look, and then they're going back. My brides are doing retouches on makeup even, and then waiting for the groom's, Bharat, Ganesh Puja to finish up on the mandap, and then they are joining for their part of the ceremony. So here we go. Again, cannot stress it enough. 4 hours prior to your getting ready being finished, this is when your day starts. This is when hair and makeup should begin. So just a good buffer time is built in there as well to make sure that you have time to chat with your girls, wake up, do all those things you need to do to have a really good start to your morning. Now, first look, people are always like, when should my vendors be starting? Well, typically your planner would have started before we start, but some start at the exact same time as your photographer and videographer team. So if you are planning to start your getting ready at, let's say, 5 o'clock in the morning, you definitely want to make sure your photographer videographer team start at 8 a.m. 8 a.m. is going to be that last hour of getting ready. Nobody needs more than that time for getting ready. And if you're sold more time on that front end, it's really unnecessary. There's nothing that you're going to be able to get any further on in that than redundant pictures. So 1 hour before your first look into that getting ready coverage. That way, the bride and groom both can get coverage at the time. We can do details. We can take a breath of air while we're making sure that we're getting all these little things as they're happening. We also have planners that will have our brides completely ready before we even arrive. I don't know how I feel about that just yet. Sometimes I think it can be great, but then sometimes I'm kind of like, oh, I wish I had that last 15 minutes of her getting ready, especially the draping. So it's fine to, get ready before we get there, but save some of that draping in those moments for us. And then we can definitely redo in a mock style the hair and makeup stuff and the jewelry and whatnot. But that last 15 minutes really should be unedited, unscripted. Give yourselves, your mom, your girls, your whoever is helping you get ready, whether that's an auntie, give them that all natural part of that last 15 minutes for your getting ready with your team. It really means a lot having that little bit of coverage that's authentic and real. Even if you want to mock the other stuff, that's perfectly fine. So then we have moving forward in that timeline, we have our brides ready, right? So the last 15 minutes, we like to grab portraits in the room, whether they're kind of editorial style or they're posed. It really depends on our couples and what it is that they want. Believe it or not, editorial is big right now. But if we left our weddings, especially South Asian Indian weddings, without posed portraits, our parents would be livid because while our brides and grooms are going to look for that edited stuff, our parents are like, where's that beautiful single portrait of our daughter or our son? And they're like, why didn't we get that? That would be something that would be a big deal if we left and just did editorial style footage all day long. There would seriously be some gaps in your coverage. So you want to find somebody that can cover all these good things, all the portraits, all the editorial, all the candids. You need a really good blended photographer who's going to just be there to document things as they happen. But in that moment where there's a great spot to be able to take portraits, be able to on the fly just change things up, add a little extra light where they need to be able to give that separation, that punch, and that wow, and really be able to set your portraits apart, remembering that we are on a timeline and we have a schedule to keep. So you should be able to get everything you could have possibly dreamed of in that time. If you're looking for something extensive on location, consider getting dressed back up again and going out and spending maybe a couple hours one afternoon with the two of you to get those really crazy, wild pictures. Anybody that sees pictures that are out of the scope of the wedding day and the venue, and they're thinking, oh, I have to have those pictures, and they believe that their friends did those pictures at the time, you're definitely deceived because most often those photo shoots that are wild, advantageous, and crazy are done on a completely separate day. So don't let social media sweep you away on the portrait time that you guys have together. Remember that if you want that crazy, awesome, out of the norm stuff, set aside a separate day. Bridal sessions used to be the thing way back then, and they are still a thing in the South in the United States. So if you are looking for something fun, crazy, and not to have to worry about if your hair, your makeup, your dressage gets messed up, think about doing another bridal session. Most photographers would love to do that with you. And some of them may even give that at a discounted price just to be able to have the portfolio work. So keep that in mind. And now as we moved into your timeline and we're moving into the first look, first looks only take 5 to 10 minutes. First look is something that, video takes more time on first look than actually photography because we like to get first look when it first happens. Whereas videography will repeat that twice, thrice. it's really a matter of how much B-roll they're looking to get, and video takes more time for a first look. Meanwhile, while video is doing that, we let them finish their thing so that we can move into doing your portraits. We always start with the safe stuff, making sure that we get the standard stuff so that nobody's upset. And then we move a lot into our editorial to let you guys move into those pictures and make it feel more organic and more natural in what it is that you guys are doing. And if you had your engagement session with us, this is definitely going to happen way faster than it would had you not. So we move through those, and we like to refer to it as flow posing because we will kind of stay in the same location but move as we go and get several different variations during that time so that we're not doing a picture here and doing a picture there, and the next thing you know, the timeline's blown. So we go through that. We make sure that we get both individual portraits as well as your couple's portraits, all those details, and the Instagram stuff that everybody wants, real tight shots of jewelry and like lips and hair and all that amazing stuff. And then we like to move into bridal party pictures at that time. So now that you've finished off your first look and your couple's pictures, we're an hour into this because that's a good time frame. So we are now 5 hours into your wedding day when our bridal party joins. The bridal party will join. We'll do his, hers, theirs, all the different single combinations. That usually takes an additional 30 minutes, no matter how big that bridal party is, to be able to have a good different groupings and some stylized pictures. 30 minutes of bridal party time is absolutely perfect. And it's after these bridal party pictures that we definitely push for immediate family. Immediate family would be brothers, sisters, mothers, dads, and surviving grandparents. This gives us the opportunity to get these pictures while you guys are clean and while we have this beautiful light or natural light or undisturbed setting that really looks like it could be magazine worthy or hang up on your parents' wall because you don't have all that stuff on you and you're not feeling tired and sitting all that time. So this is when we get those pictures, and typically immediate family member and immediate typically immediate family members' photographs should take no more than 15 minutes. If you're having extended aunties and uncles, then definitely you might want to buffer in a little bit more time for that. But if you're just doing, as I mentioned, your parents, his parents, grandparents that are surviving, and then siblings and their families, this 15 minutes is more than enough for any seasoned pro to be able to take those pictures. And remember, once the wedding's over, you're also going to do his, hers, and their shots. You're not going to duplicate all these combinations like you would with just your mom or your dad or anything like that. When you go post ceremony, just do 3 pictures: his family, her family, their family now, and then move into your extended family pictures. A lot of those mandap pictures are really obligatory, and many of our clients don't use the ones at the mandap for their albums anyway. They'll usually use extended family of those, but usually they're really wanting the clean, crisp pictures where they were fresh in their attire, fresh in their makeup, and usually even parents. That's when we get some alone time with them without the distractions of all those family members. So again, here we're 4 hours up until the end of getting ready. We add another 5th hour on for portraits, and then we're at our 6th completed hour because let's just say we put 30 minutes in there for bridal party, 15 minutes for family, and let's just round that off so that now we have our 6 hours. We are 6 hours into your wedding day. Is this not crazy? This is like we've hit a working day and we haven't even done a whole lot of work, right? From the bride and the groom side, they're not even getting started at this point. And worst case yet, that groom gets to sleep in the morning. So while you are getting ready, he is getting his beauty sleep. So there is no reason he cannot come and support and be happy and cooperative during all of these pictures and just want more than even you could possibly want. So we are 6 hours in, and at this point, this is showtime. We've got everybody in the same place because we did family pictures last, and now the groom and his family can go and head towards the barat. This timing winds up being perfect because if you are South Indian, then you are most likely having a Gauri Puja. And most of the times our grooms and their families will go and begin that barat, and the bride will return to her bridal suite or a holding room or somewhere even to the side of wherever the mandap is, and they will quickly do her Gauri Puja so that she can then sit in another holding area while waiting for the groom to process in and start his Ganesh Puja, which is officially the kickstart of the wedding ceremony services. By this time, guys, remember your guests have already come in, they've been welcomed, they're getting seats. And an important part of this, guests tend to get a little antsy the longer ceremony time is. So if you don't want people walking in and out, just be mindful. The average Hindu ceremony is about an hour and a half. I don't care if a pundit tells you an hour, it will never hit that hour mark. It is going to be an hour and a half, whether that is just little hiccups along the way. And if you end earlier than that, then kudos, because it's awesome that you met those timelines. But typically, it's a good time frame, even if you want to do that in an hour. To remember, we need an hour and a half. That bumps you now because you are at 7 hours. You got to remember, we've already had a barat, which has taken another hour. Even if the barat is 45 minutes, you have to remember that you have 15 minutes there where people have just transitioned, whether they're taking potty breaks or they are grabbing, if you're having tea and biscuits and stuff like that, they're grabbing that stuff before taking a seat so that they can get ready for your ceremony to take place. So here we've moved from our 6th hour to our 7th hour, and we are moving into the next hour. So now we are doing entrances. We have an hour and a half to do all of our entrances, whether this is a milni that you guys are going to be doing as you go inside, whatever that looks like. Just remember, we now have an hour and a half of time that is going to take us into our 8th hour. So let's just go back again and recap. Hours, let's just say 5 o'clock in the morning, you woke up. You are now at 9 o'clock before you do your first look. First look and portraits are going to take place from 9 to 10. And then from 10 to 11 is going to be bridal party and family portraits. We're here at 11 o'clock. And now if you're South Indian, you're moving into puja time, right? So you are either going to go into a Gauri puja or some sort, and then you're going to move into a holding room while the groom is now processing out to start his barat. And if he's doing his sarabundi at that time, you got to calculate a little bit of that time in there as well. So we are 5, 9, 10, 11, and then 11 to 12, you're looking at a barat, right? So 12 o'clock ceremony time. We've now hit lunch, for most average people. So this is where we've got to keep track of these times because we are at noon, which means for Indians, this needs to wrap up by 1:30 in order to have a reasonable lunchtime. So if it wraps up at 1, great, you can move into immediate family pictures. If that takes 30 minutes, you have 30 minutes that you've taken those pictures. Lunch has been opened up to all of your other guests, and you are now sitting here with a lunch time from potentially 1:30 to 3. 1:30 to 3, 1:30 to 3:30, whatever that looks like in terms. This is just me giving you these time frames. This is going to fluctuate based on how early. I have brides that get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I think it's crazy, but it does happen. So just keep these time frames in your mind as you're moving forward. Hour and a half of ceremony time. You're going to be obligatory pictures have to be taken after, whether that's with extended family or what have you, they must be taken. I always tell people we get away a lot easier on our North Indian weddings than we do on any other weddings that we do South Asian wise. North Indians, they tend to have that kind of scripted out. Nobody gets super offended if they're not in those pictures because they feel they'll catch you at cocktails or they'll catch you at the reception. And most of them are happy being on the dance floor with you and getting pictures. But if you are definitely Gujarati families are very big on having those extended families. I think my largest Gujarati family pose picture was like 120. And that was because they said, we're not doing any individual group families. We want one large family, beautifully done group picture because we want to get on with lunch and spend time with them rather than take individual group pictures. But that was a fun one and we had a great time. It was in a tent. It was tight, but we made it happen. And I think that it's important to think about what that looks like to you. If you guys don't use family pictures and share them and post them, you're really doing them for naught and it's a waste of time. So if you would rather do large group pictures and knock it out in 3 or 4, that's a great way for you to save time in your timeline to be able to say, oh my gosh, I got all these great pictures. Everybody was covered, but we get to move on. So family pictures have been done and you are now sitting at an end time for your photography team and vendors at let's see, if we start the ceremony at 12, 1:30, photography would most likely be done by 2 because we would finish all obligatory pictures on the Monday afterwards. And then 2 o'clock, everybody's still well into lunch, but that would be our timing that's a good timing for photography, 5 to 2, for a South Asian Indian wedding to take place, 5 to 2. And then from there, you guys would quickly bite and then be rushed back up to your room because now it's time to get ready for the reception. You have a whole nother look going on. And most often, this is where clients say, hey, do we want to have additional photographs of us getting ready again or not? Most of our clients, 90% of them, do not do additional getting ready pictures in the evening because unless these are Sikh families where they're doing traditional shaving of the beard, some of our more modern Sikhs will tend to shave in the evening after the ceremony, but before the reception for that look in their reception, they actually do want footage of them shaving while they're doing that. So that's probably the only time that we really do, again, getting ready pictures. And then some clients are like, I'll take 15 minutes of it. Why not? Let's just do the tail end of it. So whatever it is that you guys are envisioning, that last 15 minutes will allow us to tell a better story, especially on the videographer side. I would say videography is more important to have them tell that story in video than photo, but it never hurts to get those last 15 minutes before you guys are ready to start your reception pictures because usually reception, cocktail hour starts an hour before the reception begins, right? So if we wrapped up at 2, we most often will see our couples again around, I would say 5 to 6. And then again, coverage would begin. And most of our clients will either start their coverage an hour before cocktails because we do have couples that want to be part of cocktails. And if you want to be part of cocktails, let's say cocktails begin at 6, then you really want to start taking your couples pictures at 5 o'clock. So then that has your photography team starting again at roughly about 6 o'clock. Cocktails would usually start about 6 o'clock, but most of our clients tend to really struggle between being part of cocktails. I would tell you a lot of our grooms want to be part of cocktails, and our brides are like, no, we don't have to be part of cocktails. But in the event you want to be part of cocktails, remember, you guys started heading back up around 2 o'clock. And then at 2 o'clock, you are not going to be ready earlier than 5 at the absolute earliest. So if you want to start your pictures, again, enjoying cocktails, you need to be ready to start photos again at 5 o'clock so that you guys can take all of your couples pictures, quickly finish your family pictures, which again, I encourage reception pictures in the changed outfits to just stick to his, hers, and theirs because you really don't need any more of that. There's going to be plenty of speeches. There's going to be plenty of dancing. There's going to be plenty of mingling, plenty of people just being like, hey, can we get a quick picture? And so you don't need a lot of those pictures in the reception decor other than your family, her family, or his family separately. And then again, all of the family together. That would be a solid 3 shots, his, hers, and theirs. And then you guys can move on, join cocktails, give it time for you all to be able to meet, greet, and receive those congratulations that everybody's been waiting to give you since they started your day with you. This gives you guys the opportunity to really mix and mingle. Should you choose to join cocktails, then you are not obligated once the ceremony is over and the reception program, the planned program through speeches and dances and all that stuff. Once they're over, you're not obligated to walk around and meet and greet people. A lot of clients really do feel obligated to do that. So if you join cocktails, if this is something you can pull off, I always say, do those pictures, join cocktails, and then have your reception program so that once that's over, you don't have to worry about people coming up to you, disturbing you during food. They're also, taking away time that you could be dancing with people that you haven't seen in college or cousins you haven't seen in such a long time. You truly get to enjoy the party. So here we are, timeline wise. I know I'm all over the place, but this is just really to give you guys an insider's look on the wedding day timeline so that you guys can think, okay, now that I know how this looks and feels, because we all attend family and friends' weddings, but we never see the day from when it starts to ends. So if you guys had decided, okay, I wrapped up ceremony and stuff and was back in my room by 2 o'clock, I'm going to go ahead and get ready till 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock, go back into pictures again. And so by 6 o'clock, I can join cocktails so that 7 o'clock doors can open to our reception site. And then the program can begin. The average reception program usually lasts 1 hour. That's where speeches get in there, dance performances that you might have missed for all your pre-functions that you wanted to include in here, all get done. It usually a solid hour is well more than enough for everybody to be able to have the time that they need to be able to talk about you guys and tell you how much they love you and then move into dinner. So we are at 7 o'clock doors opened, right? By 8 o'clock, this should be the dinner start time. Buffets should be open. People should be getting their eat on. Anytime later than that, we hear a lot of people complaining that people are hungry, kids are hungry. I mean, just 8 o'clock is what we feel is the cushion hour for being able to open those dinner buffets. You get dinner open at 8, and dinner is usually open till 8 or 9. And a lot of times people will either decide to open dinner, start the dancing, but I can tell you from what our DJs tell us, they hate starting the party and then having it broken up by dinner. So if you're going to open up that dance floor, you officially open it up. Don't plan to shut it down or stop the party for food. If it makes more sense to you guys to wait. But if it doesn't, go ahead and open that dance floor at that time. A lot of times what we see is the younger groups will start dancing because they don't want to stand in the buffet lines. And then we will see the older people start to eat, and then it will flip itself around. So sometimes opening up the dance floor at the time you open up buffets can help handle some of that crowding that happens at the buffets and just allow you to have more dance time throughout the evening, since obviously you already joined cocktails and you don't have to walk around greeting people. So this is something to really take into consideration, because now here we are opening buffets up at 8. Dinner usually goes from 8 to 9, and then everybody's pretty involved from 9 till I would say 11. Those are pretty hardcore dance hours where the DJ should really have the dance floor going. And for your vendors, especially photo and video, 1 hour of open dance is more than enough to make sure that you guys have a solid end to your wedding coverage. If you guys are having any type of departure or send off, then definitely you want your team to stay until the very end of that. But most of our weddings, 70% of them are like, no, we're just dancing the night away and then going to an after party. An hour sounds great, Amy. That would be awesome. We ourselves tell our clients, just book it for an hour into open dance. And if you decide at that time you're having separation anxiety and you want us to stay, you can always add that coverage on at the end, and then we'll just bill later for it. So just keep these things in mind, because that has you at dinner opening again at 8 o'clock, and then 9 o'clock. That is really what you have to decide. Is the dance floor opening officially at the 8 o'clock hour with dinner, or is it opening at 9, which would mean your vendor would stay till 10 when it comes to photo video. If you decide to open it at 8, you might be able to get away with letting people go even an hour earlier. You really need to be able to make that call. But now, if you look at your photo video timeline, I have set for you what an ideal photographic and video timeline looks like. You are from 5 a.m. in the morning, you are getting ready, right? So they start at 8. So from 8 to 2 o'clock, you need coverage, and then you have a break, which we consider downtime. It's non-billable. We give it to our clients. We know the nature of the beast. But if you have 8 to 2, you're 6 hours in on your wedding day already. And then if we start again and we go from 5 to 10, you are at an additional 5 more hours, right? So we have 6 and 5 for 11 hours. An average Indian wedding day, if it is planned around that particular timeline, you can easily get away with wedding coverage on the wedding day within a 12-hour time block. That would be something that I would feel safe quoting. However, remember that we do have clients that tend to need more coverage, and we work around that. But this is really why we structure our prices on an hourly basis, because we know that these things change. We know pre-function events get added on, and it doesn't make sense for us in particular to be in package coverage. But this is something that really, I hope I've allowed you to understand the wedding day and realize if you take into time, these transitional periods where you're going to be moving from here to there or need this or that, take that into time. You can beat the IST on your wedding day and make sure that you have the perfect Indian wedding timeline South Asian wedding timeline that will allow you guys to get the most out of all of your vendors and make you feel like you were truly a part of your wedding day. This is how it happens, by just sitting down, involving all parties, parents, and being able to say, Mom, what's important to you? What's important to you, Dad? Like, what's important to both sides of the family? And try to say, hey, we're going to try to meet you guys where you want to be, but we're going to sit together and we're going to come up with what we feel is ideal in allowing us to really enjoy our wedding day with family and friends alike. And at the end of the day, remember that this is your day. This is the time that you guys get to spend with all those who've gotten you where you are today. People who have maybe introduced you, people who have maybe encouraged you guys to date, people who have supported you through the rigorous process of internships and, just dating long distance, and really encouraged you through the tough times, that it was worth it to make it to this time. So take that in mind, guys, and make sure that you plan out that little time to spend with them. One thing that I see overlooked a lot is that bridal party time. It's not a lot of goofing off that you have to do, but be able to take that individual time to take pictures with your bridesmaids individually, because I understand social media is a big thing and everybody has their camera out now, but you never know. That stuff could get lost. It could get deleted. You might not even see it. To be able to have that picture with your best friend, with the two of you in the calm before the crazy chaos happens that we all know is South Asian weddings, I really encourage you guys, take the time and, again, look at this video maybe once or twice and really think about what it is that I'm saying and say, hey, that's a great way to line up our timeline for success. And remember, guys, I'm here not just to blabber on giving you guys advice, but drop comments in here. Ask me questions. I would love more than anything to be able to answer those questions. This is not something I'm charging for. This is stuff that I genuinely love. I love my South Asian weddings. I love being part of a South Asian family, and the culture is something that I feel is next to none. And so if you have a question or you're just wondering how this or that went, drop me those comments, because I want to answer them. I want to talk to you guys. I want to get to know you guys. So here I am at the end of this video, and whether you've got something from it, I want to just say thank you. And I want to ask you guys to subscribe, like, share, follow us everywhere, because as I've mentioned before, this new year has just begun and I am just getting started. So until I see you again next Thursday, Srinu keeps telling me, Amy, we should do more and more and more. Tell me, how often do you want to see me on here? Would you like videos more regularly? And if so, I don't know if you don't comment, like, and share. So guys, here I am. I'm going to tune off for this episode. I think I've talked way far long enough, but I want to just say, thank you, and Happy New Year.